Natural bait is very successful, but lures work even better in some situations. Just about every tackle shop has a range of lures to choose from, and it's very appealing not just to locate and stalk such an imposing fish, but also to fool him into taking something that he wouldn't readily eat. Generally, pike prefer larger shads and plugs. At least 15 centimetres is a good rule of thumb, but if you're trolling, the much larger lures are often successful. We've had a lot of success with this choice of colours. Use natural colours on bright days with clear water. If there's not much light and perhaps the water is muddy, then dark colours work better. If the fish are really slow or the visibility is really bad, then shock colours usually get a response. A large selection of lures can really make a hole in your budget, but what you don't lose will accompany you for years to come and catch a lot of fish. Spoons are very traditional pike lures. For fast currents and deep channels, slender heavy spoons are most useful, or you can weight them so that they cast further and sink deeper. Models that have a particularly wide, thin blade give off a lot of vibrations and can be fished very slowly. Very large spinners look like a really good meal to a hungry pike. They give off a lot of vibrations and flashing action so that they really get a fish's attention. Large spinners tend to run under the surface, so they're excellent for shallow water or over weed beds. Spinners with a weighted head run deep and can be trolled very effectively. Models with a weighted body dig down deep and are excellent for fishing in faster currents or deeper rivers. If you have access to a boat, you can let the current or the wind push you past likely looking areas. This way you can systematically check out near the shore, under overhanging trees, next to weed beds, water lilies and drop-offs. There's no limit to the colours and designs of pike plugs. These are natural patterns. They're good when the water visibility is good. Choose shock colours when the water visibility is poor. Small, acutely angled bibs keep plugs near the surface, even when they troll quite fast. Large bibs with a relatively flat angle take plugs down deep. Some lures fish down to depth of as much as 8 metres, but only if they are trolled. 2- and 3-piece plugs swim with a very realistic action, but they do not impart as many vibrations into the water. They're a good tip for clear water and bright sunny days. The depth at which a plug runs depends on the form and angle of its bib, the speed at which it's running, the diameter of the line, and whether or not the plug stops or hesitates. Here's an example of a swimming plug that runs at a maximum depth of 3 metres. If you let it run slowly and make repeated stops so that it can float towards the surface, you can really keep it near the top of the water. This is very effective. In the same way, you can get the plug to swim over and around snags. Sinking plugs are equally effective. Just let them sink to the required depth before you start to reel them in. Some plugs actually hover when you stop them. That's very catchy. Rubber baits such as shads and twisters are produced in a huge range of shapes and colours and cover pretty much every situation. Soft lures can be very lifelike or completely unrealistic. Rubber baits catch a lot of fish. In fact, the soft bodies often encourage fish to take a second crack at a missed bait. Different weighted heads govern the depth at which the lures are fished. If the fish are timid, it's often worthwhile placing an extra treble hook at the rear of the bait on a short wire trace. This often turns missed bites into fish. Simply lay the loop of the shorter trace over the eye of the jig head. That would have been one less fish if we hadn't been using an extra hook. The angler that doesn't impart life into his lures isn't going to catch much or have much fun. Pay attention to the changing conditions and continually adapt your technique, rate of retrieve and direction. Spin stops often bring results, as does changing the path of your retrieve. It's important to really fish your lure all the way to the rod tip. Fish often take during the last seconds of the retrieve. If a fish follows your lure, then try and try again, varying the depth and speed of your retrieve. If the fish are lying up deep, then try working a shad so that it hops over the bottom. You can fish a shad further up in the water column in the same way, just don't let it sink as far. Some soft baits are really huge. Some are even too big to cast and are better trolled.